What's going on, boxing fans? It's Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm here to do my official prediction for Julio and Alfredo Angulo. Match takes place April 24th on HBO for the WBO Interim Light Middleweight Championship. Puts together two very solid middleweight contenders. One I still think is in that prospect stage, if you ask me. Alfredo Angulo, I do think he's still in that prospect stage, and Julio I think is a very good test for him. Julio was the 2005 Prospect of the Year rated by ESPN. He's had some pretty good wins in his career. He's had some very good wins. Ishe Smith and Cornelius Canine Bunridge were, two very solid veteran contenders. Has victories over both of them, but he's had a couple losses against, I think how you pronounce the Ukrainian guy's name, the WBO light middleweight champion, Sergey Zinzurek, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not even sure because I've never heard his name before. I just read all the time, and when I watch his fights, I watch it on silent anyway. And James Kirkland, who pretty much, that's the last time we saw Julio on television. I think he had another matchup last October against a fighter by the name of Clarence Taylor. Had a decision against him, but earlier in his career, Julio had I think his first 14 fights he won by knockout. Then he had a points win. Then he had another knockout streak consisting of 12 fights, 12 in a row, and then he had that loss to Carlos Quintana. So Julio is a very good overall boxer, puncher. I think that Julio, with his style, he can integrate a little bit and kind of interchange his style a bit. So in this fight, he does need to focus on having a distance, keeping away from the relentlessness of Alfredo Angulo. Alfredo Angulo is a very good pressure fighter. He likes to come in and throw shots, but he leads in with hooks. And Julio, with his style, he throws a lot of straight lefts. He throws some, and sometimes he can sneak that overhand right in. And Alfredo Angulo has been does get hit with the overhand right, quite often. We saw it in the Cintron fight. We saw it against, I think the dude's name is Sirkan, something like that. But we saw him get hit with right hands. And Julio needs to set up the right hand. He needs to set it up on the jab. He needs to, and also he does need to keep his distance. I think really what could win Julio this fight is discipline. Discipline will win Julio this fight if he stays very disciplined in this fight. If he does everything fundamentally right, fundamentally correct, he could win this fight. Because we all know that Angulo will have trouble against somebody who countered well against him, like we saw with Kermit Cintron. But with Kermit Cintron didn't take him out because he had a very good chin. I do think that Angulo was thrown in the ring against Cintron a little too early. But overall, Gary Shaw calls the shots with Angulo, but I just think that Julio could win this fight by staying disciplined. Keeping his distance. Moving around quite a bit, not being a stationary target. Counter right hand, counter overhand right. That's really his best bet in this matchup. Alfredo Angulo, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, he was thrown in the ring way too early when he fought Kermit Cintron last May. I believe it was May 30th or May 15th, something like that, when he fought Kermit Cintron. But overall, he's coming off a couple very big performances. Knockout over Gabriel Rosado in July, and Rosado just had a victory over Kasim Muma, who's reviving his career now. And that devastating knockout of Harry Joe Yorgi back in November the 7th. Had a devastating knockout over Harry Joe Yorgi, a fight that I made a video on saying that the fight was stopped a little too late, but it was a devastating knockout. So now he's coming in and he's fighting Julio, a good overall boxer. In this fight, I think that Alfredo Angulo needs to really move I think he needs to cut off the ring a lot in this fight, predominantly to the left side, because Joel Julio, all the time, predominantly, he moves very well to his left side. If you look at his fights, he stands straight up, but he predominantly he moves to the left, but to the right side he doesn't have necessarily as good. He's not as agile moving to his right as he is to his left. So I think that Alfredo Angulo needs to make Joel Julio go to his right side. When he goes to the right side, I think Angulo can get a few good shots into the body, and really control this fight. If he can make Joel Julio move to his right side, I think he's controlling the fight, and he's gonna make Julio fight his fight if he does that. And also, constant pressure. I think he needs to lead in with the jab, and pretty much go to the body and attack. I think really what Angulo needs to do is he needs to attack the whole fight. And he did try against Cintron. Cintron's I believe is a better boxer than Julio. I think he's a little sharper than Julio, if you ask me. But I just think that in this fight, as we saw in the James Kirkland fight, Julio doesn't really handle pressure all too well. The ring gets smaller and smaller, and and possibly we could see not necessarily a devastating knockout, but a stoppage. I like Joel Julio, and something tells me that he can get the upset in this fight, but at the same time, against a relentless puncher like Alfredo Angulo, someone who pretty much gets devastating knockouts, someone who's actually a bit smarter. I think he's a very smart fighter. I think he's smarter than James Kirkland. I think that Alfredo Angulo can knock out Joel Julio in probably 7 rounds. Let's say 7 rounds. I think that I think he'll wear him down. I think he'll wear him down and pretty much get the knockout in that round. But at the same time, Joel Julio is a very good boxer. I think he's very fundamentally sound. Gets his hands up in time, after he throws his shots. But I just think that Angulo will probably attack him the full 12 or full 10, however long the fight's gonna be. But anyway, that was the distance. I got Angulo 7th round knockout. Anyway, that was the distance. Peace.